Hey, perfect.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Whew, that was not a very graceful way to enter the video, but I'm here.
Perfect. It's so nice to see you, Soa.
Yeah,
Nice to
nice
have
to
you
see
here.
you too.
All right. So, welcome everyone here on Instagram to the Artist Talk with Zohar Fraiman and me about Zohar Fraiman's online exhibition Show Me Your Heroes at Priska Pasquer's Virtual Gallery. My name is Gloria Aino Grzywatz, and I'm the curator of the show and part of the Curator team of Peer to Space, which is an independent exhibition platform. At first, Zoa and I would like to thank the team of Priska Pasquer Gallery to make the exhibition happen. So big thanks to all of them. Throughout the course of the pandemic, the gallery Priska Pasquer shifts part of its exhibition activity from analog to digital space. The centerpiece of this shift is a dedicated virtual gallery space with a distinctive architecture and atmosphere. The space is accessible to individual visitors and to groups and function as a communal meeting point during events just like a physical gallery space. The virtual gallery is inaugurated with a new exhibition series called One-to-One, which means one curator meets one artist. The curator Tina Sauerländer and the artist Ornella Fierus have started the kickoff with the exhibition Light Shines Through the Curtains of Time, followed by the exhibition Portrait of the Future by the artist Charlie Stein and curator Peggy Schönegger. Currently on view at Priska Pasquer's virtual gallery is now the exhibition Show Me Your Heroes, which creates a surreal glowing world of color and form, establishing a dialogue with Zohar Fraiman's colorful works. So, dear Zohar, nice that we are discussing today. Maybe at first you will tell us something about yourself and your artistic practice.
Yeah, gladly. Yeah, as you know, my name is Zohar Fraiman. I'm an artist originally from Israel, and I've been living and working in Berlin for the past 12 years. It's very, very exciting to be part of this project, collaboration, this exhibition, and especially it's super exciting that I have been creating in the past year or two a lot of works relating to this digital realm in my paintings. Although I create something two-dimensional in my studio, it's performed and now exhibited in a other kind of two-dimensional world, I guess, on a screen. And it's also, I have to say, really exciting that like I see the people here now part of the chat, and like they're from all over the world. Like I see people that I know from the US or Israel or Germany, and I find this kind of what I was trying to talk about in my work, this inclusiveness and speaking on a broader realm and an influence that the digital has on a lot of social topics that I'm engaged with. Yeah, that this is like really all coming very, very nicely together. So, yeah, I mean, the paintings in the show are from a series that I've been working on for a while now that, as you mentioned, have like a colorful influence from a digital world, from like Instagram, or swiping around on our tablets. And at the same time, a lot of aspects in my work, they're taken from classical painting. I trained and worked a lot in a more classic method, and therefore a lot of old masters and paintings from the Renaissance and yeah, kind of old master techniques influenced me. And I kind of felt like this side in me, this technical classical side, I wanted to bring a new edge to it, something more contemporary, along with the theme that is to me very, very significant and contemporary.
All right, cool. Maybe you could describe one of the works in the exhibition. So maybe for the people who doesn't know your works at all, or maybe you don't have the time to go to the virtual space.
Yeah, we could talk about the work Allegory of Love, which is also seen on the invite of the exhibition that I sent out in the mail, or that you can see on Instagram or on the gallery website. Allegory of Love is a painting that has several layers in them. it's also layers of identity, which is a repeating theme in the exhibition and in these works, that you see three female figures, only one of them has like a full face, and they're kind of swiping around on a tablet, on a Tinder website, actually. And yeah, the composition influenced me from a work by Tizian that also is named Allegory of Love. But of course, in his painting, there is no tablet, and there aren't necessarily three women, but there's a female figure looking at a mirror, and there's like a Cupid figure that's guiding her and saying, "Oh, this is how you look, dear." I saw this image by Tizian, was really super impressed, because I kind of imagined a contemporary female figure, or any kind of figure, swiping around now, especially during Corona, where social distancing and basically not really having an active physical social life is existing, but actually a lot of things moved online, just like this exhibition and our talk. And was imagining three female figures just, you know, getting together and swiping and looking online for whatnot, a Tinder date or anything. But at the same time, I'm very much aware that these online platforms, social engagement online, is kind of where we create a parallel identity. It's not really us, but it's something of us. And especially, it's come to my attention also that the way we introduce ourselves, the way we talk online and chats and on WhatsApp is a very different language than what we speak to when we're face to face. And yeah, like these identities are incorporated in a lot of us today, our online identity and parallel identities. And therefore these women that are swiping around, one woman has a face, but the other ones are kind of like glitch swipe away. So they're anonymous or transparent. And yeah, like I just kind of wanted to bring several elements, layers of time of like Tizian and something more classical versus a contemporary feel, and merge them together in one painting.
So how do you think the impact from the internet? So how influences the internet our identity?
I think quite a bit. I mean, I think, as I said, it's like, I think we have several identities today. I think there's this identity of how I want to, a platform where I want to show myself online, and then there's the real me. And there are things that are maybe similar in common, but there are things that are, we invent ourselves online. We invent another identity. And yeah, I mean, this identity struggle, or this kind of doppelganger that we have within ourselves, is something that I expressed throughout the exhibition in several ways, also with like images of a character looking in a mirror and seeing themselves differently as what they look outside of the mirror. The reflection is like a gap to reality. And also I have certain characters in the show's paintings that even in one reality, there's no necessarily, there's no phone or a screen involved, but they themselves are simultaneously split into like three transparent identities at the same time. So, I mean, I guess we carry these identities with us, and these inner strifes and these doppelgangers, no matter where we go, but it definitely has like a very strong format with this digital world that we have.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I guess your work, also the work we show in the exhibition, there are a lot about feminism and the female identity. And so this is why I'm asking myself, what does feminism mean to you? So maybe also in the past, but now in the 21st century, do you think there's a big gap, or there's a change, or maybe some things which are still influenced by the past?
Definitely. I guess I would call myself a flaming feminist. Okay. Extra flames. But I think that the ideas that I talk about and the multitude of identities in my characters and my work they can be reflected not only on women, but on, I guess that it could be parallel to anyone that feels like an inner crisis, or that they feel that they have an identity that isn't fit into what society expects their role to be. So to me, as a woman, I express that as a woman. And I also personally come from a background that is more conservative, and I found myself not feeling that I could express who I am, especially as a woman, in certain surroundings that I was brought up in or that I was raised in. And I really wanted to invent my own identity, and therefore had to leave certain aspects from my upbringing to turn into myself. And I think that a lot of the work has that kind of aspect in it of like, even though I left behind certain things that I grew up with, it's still a part of me because that's how I was raised and that's where I'm from. So it never really leaves you. So it's kind of like this digital world that you invent online. It's like there's another identity in with me that's my past. I think everyone carries these simultaneous identities that they're like, you know, kind of inside us. Like sometimes they blurt and come outside, and sometimes they're really repressed. And sometimes you find a great way to live with all these identities at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. And you said before that the old master paintings are a big influence of your work. So are they also other influence? For example, I mean, if we talk about one picture, which you can see in the exhibition, Me, Myself, and I, where three kinds of figures are matching together.
Yeah, was the question about the classical element there, or I'm sorry?
No, the question was where the other influence maybe. So,
where the
yeah.
other influences. So, yeah, I mean, in that painting, I also took some visual elements from a different time. I've been using a lot of advertisements from like the 60s, 70s, sometimes the 50s also, like that have this very beautiful retro aesthetic, and that we all kind of recognize that, oh yes, that's retro, that's back then. Even though it's not such a long time ago, you can tell, oh, this isn't necessarily from 2021. And I merged in there some Disney characters, like there's Aurora in there, and there's Alice in Wonderland, palm facing, kind of ashamed of the situation, whatever that situation is. And yeah, like it's very intentional by me that I have this kind of like, I like to call it my like time machine in the painting, that I yeah, constantly look for things that you can tell that they're different times, like, or yeah, you can recognize an aesthetic from a different time while there's something more contemporary today. Even though, I mean, these Disney characters are also kind of not really like contemporary anymore. They're from the 90s, most of them.
Yeah. So let's come back about the title of the big exhibition. So what the title is, as I said before, Show Me Your Sheroes. Is it based on something particular?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking a lot about, I mean, we were thinking a lot about the title for this show and this aspect of sheroes. I mean, these Disney characters that they reappear in my works. I mean, I guess it's because also as a child that I've seen these Disney characters, and this was kind of subconsciously told to me, these are your female heroes, these Disney characters that often are kind of damsels in distress, all these like very dainty women that need rescuing. And I think as an adult, I find that slightly disturbing, because a lot of the females, or a lot of the women that I looked up to, said that I would like to be like her, or I would like to be like them, whether it's male or female, were really far from that. They weren't dainty princesses. And it really struck me when, as an adult, to think about how much in my childhood and how many children receive these cartoons, and it's kind of I find this educational format that these princesses take is really far from reality and what we should wish for ourselves as strong female leaders or characters in the world. These aren't necessarily the roles that we should all play. So, and then I was thinking, of course, of the term heroes, that it's he, and that what about the sheroes? We need to reinvent them. And there's this sentence from Warren Buffett that says, tell me who your heroes are and I'll tell you what kind of a person you will be. And I think that I'm constantly on the lookout for sheroes that inspire me to move forward, to develop as a person. And I really want to put those Disney princesses in their place and with a critical eye, use them in my paintings to make people say like, well, I don't know, Snow White, she had a great life, but maybe that's not for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And do you think the digitalization has a common impact of patterns of stereotypes?
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of new stereotypes that are introduced through our digital platforms and social media, which also appear in some of my works. But of course, I'm being introduced to that at an age where I'm already, to begin with, critical, not as a child. So I think that it'll be very interesting to see how a generation younger than me would react to those characters when they begin to create art, because when it comes in such an early age, I think that you have a different relationship to that. But it definitely does have an impact on us in our society.
Yeah. Was it your first digital exhibition, or do you have other experience before this exhibition in digital?
You know what? I think that this is my first, this virtual room that was created. Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think I was part of things that were like, had a slight digital, but nothing like on this scale. This show is one of a kind, the first.
And how was it for you to transfer your images? I mean, you paint on oil, so on canvas. So how was it for you to transfer your images in the digital?
Such a good question, because I think at first I was like, whoa, this is going to be crazy. But then it turned out to be like super fun. And the moment I got into that mindset of how are we going to make this exhibition with my works that are physical into something digital? Because when I sat and painted these in my studio, I had a lot of ideas regarding the digital world, but I made the paintings and I didn't plan for them to be exhibited in this digital format, in this virtual room. That wasn't the plan. And when this came about, I was like, whoa, that's amazing. And it worked so well. And I think that also, like the playfulness about it and having it kind of feel like a curated video game on some elements was really fun. And I mean, I would definitely be up for doing something like this again. And yeah, it was just like, yeah, it was an amazing process to go through. That mind switch like took a moment, but once I was in there, it was like, yeah.
Yeah, and where were the challenges? I mean, what was particular great fun, and maybe where there are some points where you have the feeling, okay, this is totally different, or I don't know how to manage this and to transfer it.
Yeah, like there are a lot of technical elements that I, as a painter, don't know how that works on Mozilla Hubs. This was a bit challenging, but of course, we made the most of it. I think that what is different in this virtual exhibition is that when you see the paintings live, and my paintings are usually quite large, and they have texture, and they maybe sometimes even have a scent of like, and to me, I'm addicted to the scent of oil and oil painting and turpentine. Not that healthy, but I just love it. And this sensuality is, of course, filtered out when you have a painting online. And the quality of this virtual show is amazing. I didn't expect that you can see so much, like the texture and the colors really brought through at its most. But I guess that seeing a painting in the flesh is a different experience at all times. And I guess, yeah, that is one thing that you can't necessarily compare the both of these ways of showing your work. But I guess that every platform that you exhibit in has its pluses and minuses. It was very much a plus that this show was so accessible, especially during Corona and this bizarre time in Germany with lockdown, not lockdown, etc., that many people were able to see the show, and that wouldn't have been able to see the show if it wasn't online.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to reach out more people and to get connected through a virtual platform. So in this time where we all couldn't see each other. Yeah. And now the works we see in the exhibition, most of them are from 2020 or from 2021. So do you think there's a big change in your work so that you now have different topics than in the past, or?
Yeah, for sure. I think I went through a really big shift in the last year or 2 years, where I was, because as I said, like I had this classical training and I've been painting for a very long time. And I mean, I'm such a painter. Like I can't get enough of it. I love painting. And
it's so nice.
A little bit obsessive with painting and art, and I think that I was looking internally for a change in my work. I think that the things that I talk about relating to identity, relating to women, and like this, this kind of inner split of who you feel you are in the society, what roles you fulfill in a society versus who you are internally. That's always existed in my work, always. But I felt like I needed a new way to express that. And I went through like a whole period of time where I was trying a lot of new ways out. And then, yeah, from like a very, very kind of classic, figurative, straightforward visual idea, I kind of went through a whole spiral and now got into a lot more, like the digital influenced me.
Yeah, what I find interesting, if we just have a look at the digital technologies like Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or Tinder or this technical stuff, is that we are based in the 21st century, but we come back to the stereotypes from the past. Like if you just see the statistics, for example, most of the women who are working on Instagram are doing advertising for cosmetic or stuff like this. And I find this really interesting because I think now we have a different understanding of female identity, but we are still going back to this kind of not modern ways of stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think about that?
About that we have a not modern
that we're based in this modern technologies, but we are still using stereotypes from the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem, isn't it? It's a big problem because we are on some levels so advanced, but our social capacity to understand certain things regarding I'm currently I'm a big fan of Rebecca Solnit, who's a wonderful writer, and I'm currently reading one of her books where she discusses how we as a society perceive others and how important it is actually to reflect on that in order to make change and not take for granted the positions that we view women or minorities or whatever, people of color or LGBTQ, and that it's a lot of questioning. And I think that because, of course, certain things in our subconscious work in marketing, and that it's very attractive to use a certain image of a woman on an online platform, and we all accept that and understand that. I think that there's also moments where we need to like break free from that and say like, okay, but like, is this really okay? And the more, or you know, or not, is this okay, but more like, who do I see myself compared to that? Like, take it all kind of in a more reflective point of view. And that's how, if every person does a little bit of that kind of work of reflection, that would, I think, be able to shape our perceptions much better and not fall into kind of patterns that we know from the past. But yeah, I have no like I only can agree with you that it is a problematic thing that exists for sure.
Yeah. In the past, you had an artistic phase in which you used many blue tones. So the current images are very colorful in contrast. How did the change come about? Is it because of the digital or?
Yeah, I blued myself out. I had so much blue. I kind of, yeah, I could be slightly obsessive when it comes to certain things. And I think I went to the art store, and every time I went, after I go to stores, they already knew like, oh, we have a new kind of blue. And they would like, here, try this one out. Like, oh, amazing. And then at one point, I just looked at everything around me as blue. Even like my painting clothes were full of blue stain. Everything was blue. And just like, I have to stop. Okay, I've got the blue out of me. And I'm proud, but this was part of my life. Lots of blue. And I think at one point, because I was searching again for a different kind of visual language, and I stumbled upon these retro advertisements, which are kind of the opposite of blue. They're kind of these like warm orange, brown, red colors. There's a lot of like really nice warm retro colors. So that started pulling me in. I was like, oh yeah, I like it. I like the patterns that are reappearing, and I like these like retro advertisements. Everything's kind of like parallel. There's like a harmony in the composition, and that slowly like pulled me away from the blue. And then I didn't submerge yet now into one color, and I think that I'll be careful of doing that again, because it was like very, very intense. Even though I think that was great being so tight with this blue color for a while.
That's nice. How many blue tones you used? You tried.
So many. There's so many. Yeah, I can't even name them all. Some of them I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have a lot of blue in my studio. Sometimes I look and I'm like, oh, but not too much. Just a little bit.
And maybe we can talk about the exhibition. So as you said, your works now are really colorful. And if you go to the Musea Hub's room or the virtual gallery of Priska Pasquer, you see that the whole island is really kind of colorful and very poppy. So where does this come from?
I mean, a few of the colors that I chose for the island were specific colors that were either in my works, and it was really important for me that the island has some kind of unrealistic coloration in there, that like the sand is a little bit too orange, and that the water is a little bit too aqua turquoise, and to make it like kind of like a fantasy, you know, that the paintings that I make, they're not documenting reality. There are like grains of reality in my work, but at the same time, there's a lot of unrealistic things happening. And I love this combination of these two elements. I'm really into contrasts. So like the times, the time element that I use, the contrasting a time element of like using the past and the present. I also really enjoy using the real and the unreal, or yeah, like our world and a fantasy world. And the island for me was like, oh yeah, the island. We all recognize that it's an island and water and a sunset, but kind of wanted to make it a bit extraterrestrial, a bit like trippy. And the specific colors, I chose them from the paintings. And I also was thinking about like certain video games, and also like this film Contact, where you have these aliens that create an island outside in space, and I think it's Jodie Foster comes and meets them. There's like a pink beach, and then the stars and the galaxy. It all doesn't make sense, but it's also amazing because we're already going to meet in the virtual world. Let's just make it, let's spice it up. Let's make it more fun.
Yeah. How do you view the boundaries of fiction and reality in digital space?
I'm sorry, was the what?
I mean, how do you view the boundaries of fiction and reality in digital space?
I mean, I guess that to me, I feel like there should be a couple of boundaries to make things familiar for the visitor. But on the other hand, I think breaking a lot of boundaries is fabulous. That like the combination of the two is what makes it so much fun. Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about the titles of your images. So maybe you can give us some titles and tell us something about that.
Yeah, so I often name my works, not always, but there's often this element of an influence from music in my work. So in the exhibition, there's a painting of two hands, and one's giving each other a ring on a nice, also turquoise beach kind of view with palm trees. And I named this painting Hot Tub Bling after Drake, the rapper's song Hotline Bling. I mean, his bling is referring to a cell phone and someone's calling him, so it blings, it lights up. And my bling is, it's also hot. It's in a tub though, and it's referring to the jewelry of the two hands that they're giving each other. So I often like try to place in quite a bit of humor and like references to music and pop culture in my work as another layer. Like, I don't think that the viewer has to immediately understand the context, but I guess if you know Drake and you know that song, you're like, oh yeah, that it's connected. And a lot of the works also, like the painting that's with a large red Pontiac car is named Time to Say Goodbye, the song by Andrea Bocelli. And yeah, I think that when I was painting it, I really had his voice and that song in my mind, thinking about the end of an era and the beginning of a new age of discovery for the Snow White who's driving the car. So that was really, yeah, like something, another layer that I just wanted to put in there.
Yeah, so in the big, the car you talk about, we see in the exhibition, so it's in the painting we see, and it's also in a different place. So we put it out of the image. How was it for you to put this out and to have like another artistic artwork? So from this image to another.
Yeah, it was great. This car, I've never seen this car in real life. I just can't wait to. Not that I'm a big car fan, but I've just been watching this car for so many hours while painting it and looking at images. And I think that the best thing that happened after we put the car in the show is that Ornella Ferris came and visited the exhibition and said to me, "It's just like Grand Theft Auto." And yes, that we managed to turn something in the paintings that, you know, they're often they're two-dimensional, and I try to create depth in the paintings and space. But the moment we made that car more three-dimensional in the exhibition, immediately these contexts with video games came up, and that broadened the horizons and the experience of the viewer. And yeah, the car also was like an influence for me from all these videos that I saw of different YouTube clips, like of course like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and their films still bouncing around in these lowriders, but also like there's MIA with Bad Girls, where they're also women are riding around in cars, and yeah, it was just like loads of fun to put that and get all these new aspects in the show for that.
Yeah. And would you like to do more of these digital exhibitions?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Is there a work of art in your life that has particularly impressed you? So this has still influenced your work?
One work?
Yeah, or maybe two. I don't know.
So many. Many works. I mean, I think that I'm kind of like a sponge, that I absorbed all sorts of things and enjoy so many paintings, and then they all like come out gradually when you squeeze the sponge. Not a very attractive comparison, but you know, I think that like I said, a lot of classical painting, but on the other hand, like a lot of pop culture has influenced me as well. It's hard to say like one painting. I think like, I mean, Tizian is definitely nowadays in my heart, in my mind, but also Balthus. I find him to be very interesting painter, very controversial character, but his paintings, I think, are super interesting, and they have influenced me a lot. I think a lot of early Renaissance painters also, like Giotto and Piero della Francesca, a certain flatness in their colors also were a strong influence on me. But then, of course, I've changed like the softness that they have into something more neon.
Yeah. What I really like in your paintings is this kind of layering, so that you have images and images. For example, in the image Feeling Fab. So there you have like this mirror, and you already have one person, and then you see in the mirror and you think maybe it's somebody else. So this is kind of like a game with the identity, which I really like. Or for example, the work Giving Head, where you have a TV and you see one kind of other reality. So this is, I guess, one point that you're also interested to have these boundaries between fiction and reality, and also to this kind of question, okay, what is real and what is not real, and which came first and which came then, right?
Yeah, totally. Like in Feeling Fab, you see it completely because the reflection of the character is a cartoon, and makes you question. And it's also a male cartoon figure that I took from Beauty and the Beast. I took this image of Gaston, because he's like very, in the Beauty and the Beast, Gaston is very narcissistic. He's always looking at mirrors, and I found that I rewatched part of Beauty and the Beast some months ago, and I was like, whoa, as a child I really perceived this differently. But I thought it was so amazing how Gaston is constantly like, he looks at mirrors all the time. Like he looks at a frying pan and he's admiring himself, and very narcissistic. I thought, oh, I'd love to take that narcissistic element in his face, but actually project it on a female character and make it like kind of an identity question, where she's asking, oh, who am I, looking in the mirror, and she sees a male cartoon version of herself. It's not real at all. And I guess that's the fun in painting, that doesn't have to be real. And I get to invent all sorts of funny characters that are combining, like as you mentioned, reality and fiction. And I think that if everything in my painting was just real, then maybe it would be a bit straightforward, and kind of enjoy the playfulness and the humor that I can bring in with bringing all these, unreal characters, all these fictional characters and cartoons and things that we know we won't meet them on the street probably, but they all have certain connotations to us. And we can turn into something much more funny and like playful than if I was talking about a direct person, because at the end they're not real, and they're there in order to be, yeah, arousing something playful in us to stimulate us, I guess.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us something about the work Be and Me.
Yeah, Be and Me is it's very pink. Yeah, Be and Me is, I mean, this little girl character that I also took from an advertisement, her image, looking at a Barbie doll that has her own face. So it's kind of creepy, because when you see it, you say, that little girl's face is on the Barbie. Does that mean she admires the Barbie, sees that as a role model, and wants to become the Barbie? Or is it more like she wants to become the Barbie, but she never can be the Barbie? She can only be herself. It's kind of like simultaneously several questions at once that there is no answer, you know, because I think that a lot of pop culture, cartoons, things we see on television, things that we see on the internet, they influence us subconsciously, especially if we're kids. I mean, it influences us even more. And yeah, and then reflecting upon that later as an adult and see how much of that is absorbed in us. And it's kind of like, you can't really say if we are trying to become something that was put in front of us and said, this is your role model, or maybe we're constantly fighting against that and can't be that, even though in the back of our minds we were told we should be that. It's really, it's a strong contrast, you know, trying to live up to certain role models that are, I mean, Barbie is so unrealistic.
Really?
I mean, physically, she's so unrealistic, but that's something that's like given to children and said, like, look, that's great, play with it. Maybe you should be like that. I find that, yeah, like kind of, yeah, kind of disturbing.
Yeah. So for you now, what means female identity for you in the 21st century?
What is a female identity? I mean, you can answer that. It's I think it's a lot of things. I think you could say clearly what it is not. But I think it's also very independent what each define as their, or as any female identity. I think that I know for sure about me that certain things that were told me, this is very female, today I don't agree with that anymore, and I found my other alternatives. But I'm sure that your qualities that you would see as part of your female identity are different. Yeah.
So if you come back to the car and the exhibition, we hear there a song. So what kind of song is it?
This is a music piece that I recorded in collaboration with a DJ that is part of Petra's Russian song "Watch Out." And I really, really liked this specific song. Like, we altered it and put in like car sounds also, you know, give it the car vibe. We didn't have any bouncing sounds in there, just a bit of racing. And yeah, Petra's Russian, she keeps saying, they're like, you better watch out. And it's kind of referring to the painting Time to Say Goodbye, that when I painted that work, I was kind of imagining Snow White invested in a bit of Bitcoin and bought herself a car. Because, I mean, Snow White is the first Disney princess, the first along the whole series of Disney princesses that later became like a smash hit and a Disney gimmick that they kept repeating. Snow White was the first, and I decided in that painting that, yeah, she invested in something, probably Bitcoin, got herself a car, and she's going to leave Hollywood. She's done, you know, she's like, you know, time to say goodbye. You better watch out. But on the other hand, in the painting, she's kind of still stuck on a stage with like this curtain. So I was kind of thinking of David Lynch and his Mulholland Drive film, where certain things in show business just never change, and also certain identities, that something that you want to be is sometimes very, very difficult to reach. So at least the piece outside with the car and the song is trying to make it feel more optimistic. Even though the car is not driving anywhere, it's like, wanted it to have that kind of, that voice at least. Even if it's not driving yet, it's on its way for change.
Yeah, that's a nice metaphor. Yeah, so thank you, Zohar. It was so nice to speak to you. And we thank all of you who take part at the Artist Talk. And if you are interested and if you like, we can meet now in Mozilla Hubs for the virtual happy hour, where you can hear a lot of the songs from which influenced Zohar. So we are there at 6 o'clock and hope you will join it. Thank you, Zohar. It was really nice talking to you.
Beautiful.
All right.
And ciao.
Bye.